All right, Joe, this was supposed to be the week that we would talk about sports being back, that baseball came back, had its first few days under its belt, everything would be fine, and that we're getting ready for basketball and hockey. But of course, things change on a dime, and this virus is going to be the ultimate determination of what happens in 2020. I think that is the ultimate takeaway from this Monday afternoon.
Yeah, we were, as we had said the previous time, I was super excited for baseball to get back, and then basketball and hockey shortly after. And it was like, it's so close yet so far away, and just one thing can make everything go bad.
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to happen eventually, but I thought it was going to be like maybe the second week, not the first weekend.
Yeah.
It's not looking good.
No, so we're talking about obviously the biggest news of this Monday afternoon, which is Major League Baseball having to cancel several games because of coronavirus issues. The biggest one being, of course, the Miami Marlins and their massive outbreak on their team. That it went from one player on the roster to a starting pitcher and three people in the lineup to this afternoon. 11 out of the 33 players that went up to Philadelphia for their opening weekend series, which is the 30-man roster and the 3-man taxi squad, plus a pair of coaches. Now, as such, baseball immediately canceled or postponed the Marlins opening series against the Baltimore Orioles, and similarly, the Phillies canceled their series against the Yankees. In addition, out of an abundance of caution, the Cleveland Indians and Chicago White Sox have canceled their game for today after White Sox manager Rick Renteria experienced COVID-like symptoms. He's
Yes.
currently away. He and the Marlins and the Phillies are all awaiting their tests to come back sometime tonight, sometime tomorrow, anywhere in that range, to see who's been infected, who is in the clear, and most importantly, can baseball survive? What does this mean going forward? This is the biggest test to the bubble situation since the decentralized bubble, if you will, that
Yeah,
baseball
so
has. It's the biggest challenge since the testing issues at the beginning of the month.
yeah, it's not looking good right now, and it's just completely crazy. If you look at so pitcher David Price didn't participate in this shortened season, and he said he didn't really feel safe. And David Price, you love him, you hate him. I used to like him, then he went to the Red Sox. Now he just seems like a little bit of a whiny baby sometimes. But he tweeted out, "Now we really get to see if MLB is going to put players' health first. Remember when Manfred said players' health was paramount? Part of the reason I'm at home right now is because players' health wasn't being put first. I can see that hasn't changed." And to a degree, yes, he has a point. I think MLB should have gone with a hub city, although Texas, Florida, Arizona were starting to not look like really good situations to be in. And honestly, and it's a little too late, as we were discussing before, that it's a little too late to restart up something and get a whole new hub city going. Unless if they act really, really fast, but I don't think you're going to be able to plan for that, or maybe have someone hold out for the next couple weeks to do this. But I mean, like we said, we were. I thought it was going to be at least the second week, maybe before something, so that they could at least maybe plan something, or they should have had something as a ace up their sleeve just in case. But clearly, this hasn't been happening. David Price arguably has good reason to say MLB, Rob Manfred, didn't really do their parts and didn't negotiate in good faith. So this is just not the ideal place baseball needs to be. We've talked about baseball going down in the popularity scale amongst fans and people throughout these last couple decades. And baseball was supposed to be the first sport to restart back up, but it had all these faults and troubles, but it finally got going, and now it might just be done by the end of this week. And it's completely, utterly crazy that baseball players can't seem to keep it together. I mean, we have guys like Clint Frazier who's wearing a mask while he was playing, batting, fielding, and yet the Yankees had to send him down. And he's one of these guys that was leading an example of at least put the mask on to help a little bit more. And yet we have these guys, after all these juiced home runs we saw this opening weekend, where I thought Stanton was just strong, where he hit a 460-foot home run, but we saw some of these other guys hitting 450 bombs.
I don't know what you're talking about. I saw a lot of 1-0, 2-1 games, nothing really going on. So, but to the point of the testing, there's another tweet by Trevor May of the Twins that saying, quote, when we are traveling, there's a ton of variables we can't control. The protocols can be extensive as possible, everything within each team's control being followed to the T, and an outbreak still has a legitimate chance of happening. Protocols then cross fingers. And so it's as I say a lot, that there's the Murphy's Law, which is what can go wrong will go wrong in the worst possible manner at the worst possible time.
Yeah, but you also have to realize, though, that these players aren't really social distancing. I mean, baseball should be the easiest sport to social distance from.
There's muscle memory. That's just the problem. That I've seen a bunch. There's been a lot of high fives. I know I saw some of these guys spitting and the high five. I mean, I saw a couple where the third base goes to do the high five and then he fakes it away. I guess that's technically fine, but they're way too close together, and they're supposed to not be in the dugout. They're supposed to be in the stands, and yet they're still all crowding around each other. I mean, when NASCAR restarted a couple months ago, you have all the spotters on there for the drivers so that they can see a little bit better and give advice. Oh, maybe stay high here, low here, whatever. And they were all supposed to be spread out, and then halfway through the race, they were all sitting on top of each other like it's an orgy. And it was just I know you want to get the best angle for that, and muscle memories like that as well, and you just sort of drift that way. But these are times, and they really have to be trying a lot harder. They can't just try and be I tried, but not really put the effort in. Baseball, especially right now, needs to really put the effort in, because it's so easy to stay separated from each other. There's 9 guys on a huge field. There's no reason for them to really be that close to each other unless if you're doing a double play. And at that point, just wear your damn mask on the field. It's at this point, that's the easiest way to prevent another team outbreak, or worse, passing it from team to team as you travel. But at the moment, Rob Manfred has stated that, quote, we expected we were going to have positives at some point in time. I remain optimistic that the protocols are strong enough that will allow us to play even through an outbreak like this and complete our season. So, end quote. So at the moment, MLB is not considering postponing part or whole of the season. Although there is one question two questions, but one is related to a different topic. But the question for baseball is, this 60-game season has hardly any off days in it, and that's going to make making up these games, because the Orioles have already said they're not traveling down to Miami. So while they haven't officially said it, it's all but assured that their game tomorrow and the Yankees-Phillies game tomorrow will be canceled as well.
Yeah.
When are they going to make these up? The Marlins and Orioles, that game, if that has postseason implications, I'll eat my hat. But the Phillies-Yankees one certainly has postseason variables for both sides. Those games will have to be played at some point. So when do you do them? Do you have a doubleheader later this week when the Phillies go to New York, provided that there's not an outbreak? Do you find a mutual off day? Is there even a mutual off day?
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen at that point. Like you said, maybe we could have double headers, but back-to-back double headers. I mean, that God forbid one or two of those games goes to extra innings, your bullpen's done.
Well,
You're done.
well, granted, the few extra inning games that we played so far, I believe there's been 4 or 5. They all ended in the 10th inning. So
Yeah.
there has not been an extra inning game that has gone long. It's an early sample, but it's not gone longer than the 10th.
Okay. I mean, looking at some of these scores here from this weekend, which are astronomical. I mean, we had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 teams had scored at least 6 runs Friday night. That's completely nuts. Some of which even got into double digits. And that was just Friday. Saturday was basically a repeat of the exact same thing. And then Sunday, we had more high-scoring games: 14-2, 7-6, 9-1, 14-1, 11-6. That was a crazy game between the Marlins and Phillies.
You had the national embarrassment on national television that the Mets had.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk embarrassment as well, Shohei Ohtani didn't even get an out. He gave up 5 runs, and if that happens during the Yankees-Phillies game, you got to go to your bullpen already in the first inning. You're going to need a 50-man roster at that point, and even by then, Clint Frazier still won't play.
Yeah, yeah, but
it's nuts.
Yeah. But we'll talk a little more about baseball in a bit. But there's another story that kind of coincides with the MLB outbreak, which is the other sport that's going to have a similar model, the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And you already have right now in MLB people saying that the MLB model was doomed to fail, that the season's already over. And basically the vultures are now circling the potential corpse, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And now look to football. They have the same decentralized model, with still playing in the home stadiums, no bubble, aside from protocols to try to mitigate it in. Already you have 15 players, and 16 actually, have already placed on the NFL's new reserve/COVID-19 list. The biggest outbreaks, as you would imagine, are on the Florida teams. The Jaguars have 4 players, and the Miami Dolphins have 3 players. You have several others starting to opt out now. No big names. You don't see Cam Newton or Peyton Manning, not Peyton Manning, Tom Brady opting out just yet. But you have to look at MLB. You look MLB where you have players now considering a new round of opting out of the season after just 1 week. What happens the same way if it's the NFL? And NFL is a lot more contact sport than anything. It's basically the only one that's similar in contact is basketball. Just crank the amount of players up to the 11th degree.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like a 53-man roster for the NFL.
A 53-man roster. They're all over each other. They're all grabbing for the same ball. They're all sweating out there, piling on each other. NFL is probably the least. Along with basketball, are the least likely sports that would be able to come back this year. And I'd probably say football is the worst, just because of how often they tackle each other and fly. Like basketball, you're sweating with the ball, but there are only 5 players out in the field. You don't have a starting lines that comprise of 22 combined people, and they're not all tackling each other for a basketball.
But what actually makes basketball almost just as dangerous is that it is only 5 people starting. Maybe you even get to 8 guys on your team to get like real minutes in basketball. And if your 1 or 2 best players on that team catch that, basketball, you're pretty much done. I mean,
Yeah.
the Warriors have had one of the best 5-year runs I've ever seen in basketball. Um, and not to say that it's the best. I mean, Celtics of the 60s and 70s were definitely probably one of the best. Argue the Bulls from the 90s, but of recent years, it's been almost utter dominance year in, year out for 5 years, and they go and lost like all their players due to injury or signing elsewhere, and that team just crumbled. And it's just how that chemistry works in basketball. So, yeah, that's going to be tough when they're all handling the ball together and passing that around, and
Yeah.
the roster isn't as big as, say, the NFL, which then too big is too much as well. I think you sort of need a fairly good balance. I mean, hockey right now, I don't know if you saw this, but they had 4,256 tests over the past week to more than 800 players during that span, and not one positive test. Not one. They had zero. Hockey, I've said it over and over again. These guys are the toughest guys out there. They know how to get things done, except that lockout year a couple of years back. But it's just completely amazing how well the NHL players have been able to keep their distance, do what they need to do. I mean, it helps that they've got all the padding on, and some guys already wear visors on their helmets. So that helps as well for their case.
They're also
They're
testing daily as opposed to the every other
Yeah.
day testing that the other three sports
Yeah.
are following.
Yeah.
So
What I will say though for the NBA, apparently Kristaps Porzingis of the Mavericks, he forgot to get tested the one day, which I don't know how you do that. I feel like it should be like, all right, Billy, you're getting tested. Fabio, you're getting tested today. Like, call him up. Like, let's go. Like, it should be like getting tested for like steroids and whatnot. Just like you have to do this, but the NBA is implementing if you miss your day, then you can't participate the next day. You got to quarantine for one day, which I guess is good, but at the same time, it's sort of like, really, that's like all you're gonna do. I feel like there should be a stricter punishment like that, or at least make it more obvious that like you have to get tested on your day, no ifs, ands, or buts.
right.
I think the NFL, I thought I saw, had a policy though. If you're caught doing stupid things and you contract coronavirus, you will be severely punished if you're like attending events and other things that you shouldn't be doing. So I guess that's one thing going their way.
Yeah, and I imagine after the Marlins situation that leagues are gonna review their policies and potentially add new crackdowns
Yeah.
to prevent a mass outbreak, like, or at least reduce the risk. Because as Trevor May said, that you're not going to complete. It's not going to get down to zero until a vaccine is out, which is still months away at least.
Yeah.
So this is the ongoing situation, and hopefully baseball and the other sports will be able to weather the storm. But before all this, there was one thing I wanted to talk about. Another big news out of baseball. This one a more positive situation. At least if you're a team that was looking up at a surefire division winner, which is that at the last minute before opening day, Major League Baseball and the Players Union reached a new deal for the 2020 postseason should it occur, which is that in addition to the 3 division winners and 2 wild card, the second place team in each division will now automatically go to the playoffs as well. So that will be a total of 8 teams, 3 division winners, 3 second place teams, the runner-ups as they're being called, and 2 wild cards. They'll then be seeded 1 to 8 in each league, and play a 3-game series at the Best Records Park. So number 8 at number 1's park, 7 at number 2's park, and so on down the line. And then after that, it goes to best of 5 for what was the division series. I guess it's round 2 now.
Yep.
And then the championship series and World Series are still best of 7. So we did our predictions last week around the normal fact, as we were expecting, that there would only be the division winners and 2 wild cards. Adding a second team in each division really changes what the postseason picture looks like.
Yeah, and also between the coronavirus outbreaks and now big injuries to names like Justin Verlander, Corey Kluber, that AL West is definitely up for grabs right now.
Yeah, so we were going to also talk before the virus kind of took our storyline and 20 minutes of our time at this moment.
Yeah.
We were going to talk about our first thoughts and some of the other things that would be there. Like already that there was a scare that Justin Verlander would be out for the season. He announced that it's just a forearm strain. He should be back within a month. Corey Kluber, on the other hand, has a grade 2 teres major tear and will be out basically the entire year. Might be back for the playoffs. Moustakas, the Reds have a smaller situation with the virus, and Mike Moustakas, one of their big hitters, is on the injured list for an undisclosed reason, which generally means that it probably is the virus, because they're not allowed to disclose without player approval. Juan Soto tested positive right before the home opener. So a lot of these races have changed a lot. And I want to use this opportunity. Let's take, after our first few days and with the new playoff picture in mind, go back at the divisions and see who we think is in this revised predictions, if you will.
Well, let me just point to, at least it's pictured this way on ESPN, but they have the Baltimore Orioles as number 1 in the AL East. So let's just take a moment to appreciate that.
Because they will never be that for the rest of the year once they start playing.
Props to the Orioles, first place.
I mean, the Miami Marlins are going to be first place, at least until the Braves, if they win tonight.
Yeah.
So
go figure. So maybe you will have to eat your hat.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. But predicting wise, if I may be bold as to go first.
Go ahead.
The AL East. The biggest implication is not for New York and Tampa Bay. I think we can assume that those will be the top 2 teams in the AL East. Toronto, though, now it can be within fighting distance of either the Rays or the wild card. And Boston theoretically could potentially have a shot at that wild card too, depending on how things go. And in the Central, the Chicago White Sox, I feel, will still be fighting with Minnesota for those 2 spots, and Cleveland now has a bit of a path to a wild card. And in the West, as we said, it's a mess right now because of early injuries. Oakland's already staked themselves out with a win today to a 3-1 record. The first team in baseball with that record along with the Padres. But I still think it's Oakland and Houston at the top. But depending on what happens, Houston's has Verlander out. They still don't have Yordan Alvarez back in the lineup after he dealt with coronavirus. That the Angels could have a path. The Rangers could have a path. The Angels, though, they have a 1-3 record after their loss to the A's. So who knows?
Yeah.
And then
it's still early to tell, but.
Yeah, so summarize: Yankees and Rays in the East, White Sox and Twins in the Central, and some combination of Oakland and Houston in the West, with wild card potentially being the Blue Jays, the Indians, the Rangers, and the Angels. In the NL, which we said was the biggest cluster, the biggest cluster truck of a wild card, if you will.
Yeah.
I still say 1 to 4. You could still order the Braves, the Mets, the Phillies, and the Nationals in any order, and I would say it's correct. And then put the Marlins in 5th. But early performance. The Braves have looked very good. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they're already out to a 2-1. So I would say that the Braves are probably one of those two teams at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, that uh, figure out the other three as you will. I still think all three of them have a shot. Although the Mets have looked a little silly. The
Well, they're
last
the Mets.
Yeah, but they're the Mets, so that we expect that. In the Central, Cincinnati, as I said, just lost Mike Moustakas for an
Mustakas.
indefinite time, and they wasted some very good outings from starting pitchers, including a
Yeah.
13 strikeout performance by your boy Trevor Bauer yesterday.
Yeah.
But I still think they have a shot at one of the two positions. The other ones, I think either the Brewers or the Cardinals, and then from there, whichever one of those teams, and maybe the Cubs. The Cubs, I don't. They could go out, but there's the risk of Anthony Rizzo having to opt out because he's a cancer survivor. Plus, that team has not really added in 2 years to a squad that really needs a few pieces. So I don't think they'll last in the long haul. And then in the West, San Diego up to a 3-1 record. They've proven they can play with the big boys early
Yeah,
on.
the Dodgers kicked the crap out of the Giants the first two games, and then the next two games were just
Yeah, Sunday Night Baseball was downright
that was
boring to
nuts.
watch between the two of them.
Yeah,
So, but San Diego, I think, has firmly cemented themselves as as
good number two.
as one of the two teams. If number one, but potentially, but the Dodgers, I think, will roar back
Yeah.
and as I've heard quoted once, their Big Daddy complex with San Diego.
Yeah.
Especially considering there were rumors that the Padres were in on Mookie Betts before the Dodgers swooped up. And after that, you never know what the Rockies can do, and the Diamondbacks, they got off
Well,
to
the Rockies just had someone opt out.
he was not. Tim Collins was not part of their major
No.
league squad. He was part of their
Okay.
reserve squad.
Okay.
So, but as I said, they live and die by their pitching, so you never know.
Yeah.
So for the National League, as I said, still a mess in the East and the Central, but I would say the Braves are solidifying one of those two slots in the East, and the Cardinals and Reds, I have a feeling, might be the ones in the Central. In the West, it looks like potentially San Diego and LA in one of those orders, probably LA first, and then maybe Colorado and Arizona going for a wild card. But again, there's so much parity in the National League right now, it is very hard to predict what a wild card might be, especially
Yeah,
in a
I'm
short
gonna
60-game season.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on all of that. The only problem I have, well, there's a couple problems I have about the playoff format. I understand why they're doing this. They have less games. Teams need more money. Those television deals for the playoffs are very nice for those owners. So that's definitely bringing money in there. Players usually don't make much in the playoffs to begin with, so by sort of negotiating more games there, the players were able to scrounge up a little bit more money for them if they make the playoffs, and so that's going for them. And I understand that. What I like how baseball was, I've said it in the past, that I like how it's sort of like fairly elite status. I think the format they have now is a very good format as for number of team wise. Once you get 16 teams in, it's more than half the league making the playoffs, and that just takes away from everything, especially in a shortened season like this. And I understand why they're doing it. I don't particularly like it, but because they're going this route, what I think they should have done is do it like basketball. And I don't know why hockey doesn't do it this way, although they changed how their divisions are, but that's besides the point there. But what baseball should have done is do it exactly like basketball. You have your division winners. Those guys are guaranteed a spot of those 8 teams. Done. But the difference is if if the Yankees say finish the season with 45 wins, number one overall in the AL, and Tampa Bay finishes one game back, number two overall, Tampa Bay should not be punished and have to get that number four seed. They would then get that number two seed and push, say, the Twins or the A's, who might have the other division winning seeds. They would go down one spot. And I think that's how it should be because, as we said, the AL West, maybe the Athletics, Astros, and Rangers all decide to win 42 plus games and maybe do better than Minnesota or some of the other. And now it's sort of like out of sync. You might have a wild card team that might have a record just as good as a division winner, and then the second or third division winner might be playing a team that just probably didn't do as well, but they finished second in their division, so now they have that.
Yeah, although conversely, you then have the thing where you're fine and dandy. You won your division in the Central. It's close, tough fought. It only took 38 wins to win the division, and now suddenly you're having to play against a 42 win team, 45 win team that's much better than you. Even though you're the division and they're the wild card, the odds, and you have home field advantage, the odds are suddenly flipped because even though you've won your division and got your field, you're now facing a team that is clearly better than you.
No, so you wouldn't even get home field advantage. They have the inferior record. They do not get home field advantage.
Oh yeah, right.
The only advantage they get is that they get a playoff seed.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's guaranteed there, and I think that's 100 legit, totally fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
The emphasis here is win your division, win as many games as possible at this point right now. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
Not, all right, well, just because you're the second place team, now you're got this fourth, fifth, or sixth. No. You have to earn your spot in there.
Yeah.
And respect basketball for their system for that.
Yeah, and this and many other things baseball's doing right now, like the run around second, they're basically seeing this as a trial year. That they use the short season, see what works, see what doesn't, and then when they go
don't continue.
Yeah. Well, I know the runner at second base rule in the extra innings is getting mixed reactions. The batters love it because, well, they can hit in a runner in scoring position. The pitchers hate it because they feel like they're being penalized for playing extra innings, and two, even though they're not getting charged that run because it's considered a team error in how they're scoring it, they still get the loss if that run scores and that's the deciding run. They still get that loss on their record, and pitchers are not happy about that.
Yeah. No.
So I can see the players union saying, thanks, it was good with the pandemic, but we're not entirely on board with this, and you can keep that in the minor leagues where it's helpful in markets that don't have that can't afford to go more than 9 innings in those small minor league cities.
Speaking of it being charged as an error, did you happen to look at the box score for Saturday's Yankees-Nationals game?
I did not.
Okay. So the Nationals won that game 9-2, out hit the Yankees 13-7. They also had 5 errors to the Yankees' 2 errors. How do you win a game by committing 5 errors, and then how do you get blown out of a game by being given 5 errors? I mean, that's just
it's called hitting
unacceptable.
It's called hitting when it matters.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, what was it? The Dodgers left, like 17 base runners the other night?
They didn't have an extra base hit until the 9th inning. The only one of the game.
I mean, that's what I love about baseball, though. It's unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. I think that's what makes baseball fun. So, I mean, I'm glad baseball's back. But I'm not happy about these juiced home runs that I'm seeing. This is just a little bit too much for me.
I mean, this has been issue for the last 2 years.
Yeah, but this was this past weekend was just sort of like, come on, like the Yankees and Twins smashed the home run record, like to bits and pieces last year. But like this is just like, come on, like don't juice the ball that much. I know you're trying to get the season exciting and whatnot, but this isn't the way to do that. And they can't be given a BS reason. Oh, the seams were bad. Like, fess up. Just say you're juicing the ball. You're changing it. Get a physicist out there and let him look at the ball. Because baseball's just not doing their job at this point.
No, but I guess the last thing I have for today, and this is something that we've sat on for a few days. What do you think about the Kraken? I don't mean Gary Sanchez Kraken. I mean the newest team in the NHL, the Seattle Kraken.
My dad didn't. My dad didn't like it. He was like, "What's a Kraken?" I'm like, it's like a giant squid.
Has he not seen the Pirates of the Caribbean movies?
He has. I guess it just didn't ring a bell. But I mean, I kind of like it. I mean, it's a little like college-esque, but at the same time, it's got some good letters in there. Like I love the K, Kraken. It's got some good consonants in there. So I think that's kind of cool. I think the logo's kind of cool. That there's no white in it. The name doesn't end in an S. That's pretty cool as well. You don't see that very often. The NHL actually has quite a few teams that don't have that. Let me pull that up here.
Don't they have the Wild and the?
Yeah, they have the Tampa Bay Lightning.
The Avalanche.
The Avalanche.
We said the Wild. Yeah, and the Kraken.
Okay, yeah, and the Kraken. So they've got a couple of those.
Yeah, I guess when the obvious names are taken by baseball, football, and basketball, you got to get creative.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of like it. The logo's kind of cool. There's no white in it.
The logo looks like those cash symbols that kids drew in high school on desks and stuff.
Right.
Kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of interesting. I like the little red in there, like for it's the little eye.
Yeah.
So I'm in favor for it. The little tentacle that's in there too.
I still would have liked a throwback to the good old Seattle Pirates, the team that was never meant to be.
I mean, personally, I was hoping a Seattle team would be called like the Seattle Rain.
The Rainiers.
Yeah, but then also because of it rains always there too, so it works twice.
Or the storm.
Yep. So.
But maybe that's for another team in the future. Hey, the Indians are potentially looking for a name. Maybe one of those.
Yeah, maybe. But I think that just about rounds it up. We're still not sure what's going to happen with baseball. And well, let's just check real quick. Any breaking news on baseball?
Is there anything? Not that I see.
I don't see anything. Nats signed 2-time All-Star Harrison to one deal.
He's not an All-Star anymore. The
Manfred. Bobichet scratched for leg issue. Yeah.
I guess one thing to say is that yesterday was supposed to be the induction ceremony for the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame with Derek Jeter, Larry Walker, and
he should have been unanimous. That guy will be burned at the stake.
Once we
find out who he is.
Yeah, obviously it was canceled because of the virus, and will be pushed to next year.
That guy must be happy.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. This looking forward to next year with both the 2020 and the 2021 classes. That'll be a huge Hall of Fame summer. It was supposed to be huge anyway because of Derek Jeter, but depending on what other names could come up, I mean, you could get enough moment. It looks like Kurt Schilling could get enough momentum. That'll bring Boston faithful over. Theoretically, Barry Bonds or Roger Clemens could also get the nod since they cleaned out some of the ballot.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this way in the future when it gets closer to the to the next class of Hall of Fame. But
Until then, I guess we'll just have to wait on basketball, which restarts Thursday, and hockey will restart on Saturday.
And
the
hold
30th and the 1st.
And hold our breath on baseball.
Yeah, so I mean, the way the NHL's been going right now, I think they should be fine.
Yeah.
Basketball, like we said, once everyone starts touching the balls and handling it around and sweating on each other.
And they've already had some concerns of some breaches to their bubble situation too.
Yeah, and
So,
my Boston Celtics are kind of scared me. I keep seeing them do like weird acrobatic stuff. I'm like, don't be flipping each other, getting hurt. That's stupid.
Yeah.
They gotta be more safe.
Yeah.
So
who would think
hopefully
that,
both hold, and baseball figures their stuff out because oof.
Who would have thought
It
hockey
is
is?
a mess.
Who would have thought hockey is the most likely sport to go through their intentions and not experience a major disruption? Who would have thought that a month ago?
Oh, I mean, my love for hockey is great, so I'm all excited for it. And here's to hopefully the Rangers going deep into the playoffs and hopefully winning that cup.
And here's
right.
hoping that baseball and basketball can get on their feet. And I have my doubts on football, but hope they work it out too. This will be the story of the year. Can sports survive?
I couldn't care less about football at this point.
Yeah,
the Jets are just they traded one of their best players, although he was a headache. But that's a story for another day. And the Jets just suck, and I'm tired of it.
Hey, we didn't even get to talk about Woody Johnson and his racing thing. Well, maybe by next week you guys have indication that you're getting a new owner.
Yeah,
Hopefully
I've been praying for that forever because it makes me so sad to buy his Band-Aids. It really does.
Hopefully it's not Alex Rodriguez or some out of left.
No, I want A-Rod all the way.
Until next time, wear your masks, wash your hands, socially distance, be responsible, and go sports, because we need sports right now.
Amen to that. Oh, that's religion. Yeah, we're too religious.
We're canceled. Cut it off. See you next week, guys.
See ya. Bye.